Hello, live stream. Lovely to see you. Yeah, I'm so happy to be streaming today and speaking with you all. Yeah, what a joy. So we're going to start with the talk today. We're straight away with the talk today rather than doing advertisement. And the title of the talk is Why Mastering Meaning is Needed to Manifest What You Truly Want: Freedom, Awakening, Happiness. Yeah, nice. So, yeah, mastering meaning. Okay. Mastering meaning. What does that mean? So meaning is such a fascinating concept. So if we take book, in English, we call it a book. In German, we call it a Bucher, even though I'm most probably not pronouncing that correctly. And in other languages, it has infinite names. Well, actually, it's not infinite, unless we think about aliens and there being other life forms and other dimensions. So yeah, it has got infinite names. And which is its truest name? What is the truest name of a book? And everybody has different meanings associated with books. If you've got bad experiences with books, then you'll hear the sounds and there will be negative connotations that happen. If you've had really positive experiences with books, then you might experience a feeling of joy just at the name of it. And there might be indifference. There could be all types of things that a book evokes. And then all different types of imagination. So meaning is a really interesting phenomena because it's not fixed. But we believe meaning is fixed. Humans believe meaning is fixed. That is a tree. I am a body. I am a name. This is the society I live in. I am French. I am American. I am Indian. I am Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Buddhism. And these are all fixed things. And we feel like names are prior to existence itself. I know that sounds weird, but we feel like names come first rather than existence comes first. And existence is nameless. Names only began to appear when humans or intelligent life forms began to name things. I don't think the dinosaurs named things. They were like, "Rah!" That means, don't eat me. Or do my feathers look good in this? So, meaning is a fascinating concept. So we believe that we exist as people inside a world of meaning, rather than ourself and our world arises in meaning, and we exist prior to that. And to most humans, saying that already doesn't make sense. They're like, you what, love? What was that? I'm also going to disappear out of screen now. I'm just putting my feet up. Let's see. You now just see my eyes. It's like when I speak to my mom on Zoom. I just see this part. Yeah, I am a little low. So most people can't even come to that type of realization. The meaning is something after us. We weren't born with meaning. We weren't born with a name. We weren't born with ideas. We weren't born with concepts. It was something we learned. We learned the name of the tree. The tree isn't inherently a tree. It's so hard for us to begin to go there, because I suspect it triggers our sense of meaninglessness and a fear of death. I know that sounds very dramatic. It's like, boom, 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 triggers our fear of death. But it really does, because if we begin to go beyond meaning and our meaning in this world, do we exist? And if we do exist, what do we exist as? Because if we aren't a name, aren't our emotions, aren't our feelings, aren't our past, aren't what we're going to do in the future, aren't our job title, if we're not all of these things, then what are we? And who is alive? Who is alive? And this is like the most important fundamental question that should be reflected to all humans throughout their life. Because to me and to non-duality, human suffering is the seeker, which is constantly seeking to be a meaning, a name, and a thing that exists in time and words. So this is why it's really important to master meaning, even though that too is a concept. It's understanding what meaning is and putting it into perspective, and understanding what our meaning is. Because most of us are living through a false concept of meaning and then seeking to live up to an idea of our false concept of meaning, which is inevitably suffering, because none of that's true. We made up all the words, we made up the sentence structures. Our body is interpreting all words in a different way. Everybody's interpretation of what's being spoken about is different. And yet, the seeker is always striving to have a solid meaning and a solid sense of self that obtains meaning. And this is an impossibility. The person is being set up to fail. And the more that life goes on in this manner, the more the person will get into mental chaos and suffering, because they're seeking for meaning that doesn't exist. And it's so important to people. You know, a lot of people, when they begin to get into non-duality, you know, a lot of the main questions then are, then what? You know, then we live a life trying to save others? You know, so they open up to this idea that they don't exist, but they very quickly need to replace it with a new meaning for themselves. And this happens because the seeker is terrified of meaninglessness. And I don't mean meaninglessness as a thing, as a depressive state. I mean it as, who are we prior to meaning? And when we begin to investigate this and explore what our meaning is, then the purpose of the spiritual journey becomes clear. So what you're actually seeking for, what the purpose is, what you truly want to manifest, is freedom. And freedom is not in meaning, not in words, not in things. It is in that which is experiencing all of this, which is totally empty and all things simultaneously. We could call it consciousness for now, but eventually consciousness becomes meaningless, because that too is a concept that we're passing on. It's so beautiful. But I would just like to congratulate everybody for being here, because I think in the past, I've given the impression that this subject is easy peasy. But this is the hardest journey you'll ever endeavor to take, because it's consciously dying. So not dying physically, but that seeker dying, that one that wants to be something, that one that's always trying to be something in time. So this is the most intense journey there could possibly be in life, because you're actually going back to the source of everything and asking, who am I? And who is it that exists prior to birth and after death? Most people are too afraid to even ask this, because it sets in panic of death. Because it is death while being alive, it's death of an illusion. And that illusion of you is desperate to stay alive. So it's really the most intense journey anyone undertakes. In a way, it's the only journey that everyone's undertaking. But for people that are here, that it's more than likely more accelerated. It's coming to an end. They're getting to the end point, which is excruciatingly painful. The rest of humanity are still believing and hoping that they will be saved through a pleasurable event in time, through something that they do in time, an action they do in time, rather than actually in the experience going back to the source of where time and everything comes from, which is infinite and no thing. And that's terrifying to the seeker. Hang on, I just have to go back to the title because it's a complex title. So, why mastering meaning is needed to manifest what you truly want. So what is it that you really truly want? And what is it that you're manifesting in your life? Because what manifests in the life is what you want. But it's not a personal thing, it's an energy. So if what you really want is a house, acknowledging it or not acknowledging it. So maybe you want a house, but there's not really a realization of that. It's an unconscious thing. There will be a seeking for that. In every moment, there will be an attempt to get closer to that, conscious or unconscious. So to manifest what you want, you really have to have a strong perspective on what it is that you want. Most people are living in the surface wants, so wanting the house, wanting the car, wanting the money, wanting friendship, wanting the end of loneliness, not wanting pain, which is fair enough. But if you go deeper, underneath all of this, what everybody truly desires is freedom. And when you're on the spiritual path, that has to keep being evoked, to keep going back to the desire for freedom. So when your mind, when the seeker is in the illusion of believing that it's in the car, in the house, in the peaceful partner, You have to keep reminding, it's like coming out of that illusion and being like, no, that's not what I want. These things are pleasurable, these things are nice, but what I truly want is freedom. So there has to be this recognition. It's what everybody truly wants, but most people stay in the surface wants. There has to be going deep inside to find that longing. And then in every seeking moment, well, not in every seeking moment, but in daily living, coming back to what it is I want, because you will manifest what it is that you want. It's not a personal manifestation, it's just the way this works. You know, your body is going to move to what it wants. You can tell it, no, no, naughty body, don't do that. But then when you forget, it will be off trying to get more money, trying to have kids or whatever it is that it so desires. Whatever it is, it so desires. So now there can be, if you want, an investigation for going in. What is it that you want? For going into the feelings, going into the sensations. What is it that's wanted? And it's keeping this in mind. So when all the illusions come up, that it's the house, it's the car, it's the people, it's the money, it's the fame, it's the clothes, it's the beauty, it's the perfect partner, it's getting out of this, getting out of that, avoiding this, avoiding pain, avoiding dying, avoiding aging. You are like, no, that's not true. What I want is freedom. And freedom isn't found in getting or avoiding. Freedom is found in the recognition of who I truly am, in the remembering of who I truly am, which is the formless, appearing as form. This is always the freedom. And these talks, even though they can give intellectual clarity, and there's a reason for intellectual clarity, it calms down the thinking mind, it points things out, like the pointing out of what you truly want is freedom. So all these things are important. It's like the intellectual is like a brainwashing. The brain is being washed from its other ideas, that pleasure is my freedom and pain is my cage. But what really happens in satsang, in meeting in truth, in these talks and in other people's talks like this, is that when these concepts are spoken from a place of stillness, then they can become like a portal or a resonance to others listening, for them to remember that and resonate with that. So it's a bit like a ping pong. It's like from the talker, the speaker, talking from stillness, and the listener begins to sense that. And then it gets fed back. And then I know it's through the internet, so it's not so obvious and maybe doesn't happen through the internet, but in groups, then the other people begin to feel it. It maybe happens when people can see each other, you know, in a Zoom group. And then there's this effect. What it can also do is it can really highlight the illusion. So sometimes when you listen to these talks, you might experience immense fear or suffering or discomfort, because it can also highlight that which is not true. So it can create a resonance, but it also can create immense fear, because there's a fear of going beyond what you are. These talks aren't about you avoiding They aren't about bypassing. There's a lot of talk of bypassing in non-duality. It's really about embracing everything. So embracing all emotions to such an intimate, strong sense that there is nobody embracing it. So it's like when there is anger, all there is anger, or when there is joy, all there is joy. And there's nobody that's trying to manage it or put it aside, hold on to it. It's like really, truly feeling everything. So some people can listen to these talks and use it as a form of bypassing by trying to pretend they're enlightened, by trying to pretend that they don't have any problems or that there's nobody there, and then trying to manipulate other people with it. Like I've seen it all. I've been in the spiritual scene for so many years. And that's not what this is about. And this is why there's so much concern about bypassing, because, you know, people with any concept can use it in all types of different ways. It's not about becoming better than others. It's not about becoming more woken than other people in society. It's about really being authentically here now, to the point where there is nobody here now. There is simply emptiness experiencing itself as fullness, which is love. Absolute love. Yeah, I don't know if I've got any more introduction left in me. Nothing else is coming. So if anybody has any questions in Zoom, you can raise your hand and I will come to you. Only your voice will be broadcast, not your name or your video. Yeah. And if you have any questions in Telegram, you can write them in Lisa Cairns questions. I don't know if there is any questions. I think he said that longing for freedom can actually manifest freedom, not just be a useless dream. Yeah, what's really interesting about longing for freedom is when you recognize that what you want below house, money, job, all these types of things, when you realize in every moment what it is that you want is freedom, and this is really recognized, what can happen is there can be another recognition, is that in the feeling of wanting freedom, in the desire for wanting freedom, there is freedom itself. So when you come down to that momentum that is seeking for freedom, there is also freedom there. Because you can't seek for something that you don't know. So in order to seek for something, there has to also be the taste of it. So in Papaji's book, Wake Up and Roar, I love his pointing where it's like when you really drop into the seeking for freedom, the wanting to freedom, the actual experience of it, in a way, you become freedom. And the reason that I say that longing for freedom can actually manifest freedom is because you are going to go after whatever it is that you're longing for. So when you line up and recognize that what you're actually longing for in every moment is freedom, then you're kind of in the tiger's mouth. There is no other direction to go than towards freedom. It's like the Pac-Man eating itself. So it does manifest freedom. But know that all of this speaking and this going backwards and forwards about spiritual path only exists in our imagination and our meaning mapping. And what this subject really truly is going back to that which is beyond meaning. So even though it's great to be able to talk about this subject and to point out illusions, to point out traps, and to speak about what actually freedom is, what we're collapsing back into is that which is beyond concepts and words and meaning. So we're collapsing back into the timelessness, the spacelessness, the stillness, the silence, the unmanifested, that which is apparently experiencing all of this and not separate from that which it's experiencing, no thing and all things. And in that place, even though it's not a place, but in that place, there is no you and me and past and future, doing, manifesting, not manifesting. There are appearances which seem to appear, but that the unmanifested is free from meaning. Thank you. Thank you for your question. It's the only question today. going to have to get my book out in a moment and start reading from non-duality non-duality quotes. What I truly want is freedom. Is it important to live a life without depending financially on others to realize freedom? Thank you for your question. Freedom is in all things, in all situations, in all manifestations. It's always here. It's always here. It's that which is experiencing. And have you ever been absent from that which is experiencing? What we believe is that we are the thoughts and we are the creator of our life. When there begins to be this examination of where thoughts, feelings, you is coming from, they're seen as a spontaneous arising from nothing, from nothing. And it's a complete illusion that you chose your life, you chose to be financially dependent or independent, you chose to be successful or unsuccessful, to be homeless or homed. That is something that is happening. This is such a deep teaching, though, and shouldn't be taken as a concept, but should be explored for oneself. Where are thoughts and actions arising from? Who is the doer of thoughts and actions? So Ramesh Balsakar, one of my teachers, used to say, follow a choice back, and where does a choice begin? And you can do that now in this moment, or you can do it through imagination in the timeline. And both end up being infinite. Infinite. They cannot be grabbed hold of. So thoughts are arising, a life is arising. Who is it arising for? When it's truly seen that the sourcey source of everything is absolutely empty, then freedom entails. There is no doer of any action, of any action. What can be investigated, though, from your question, life without depending financially on others to realize freedom, is there can be an investigation as to the seeking components in being financially dependent on others. So the way in which the illusion is created is entirely through seeking, entirely through a seeking. So the first seeking is I am a body. That doesn't sound like a seeking, but it is. You're trying to become form. There is something that's trying to be something steady, whereas actually what you are is the formless. So when the baby opened its eyes into this world, it was no baby and no mother, there was simply everything. And then at some point, the baby begins to hallucinate, or the toddler begins to hallucinate, I am this body. And that is a seeking. A seeker arises to be form. And then the seeker expands through new seeking ideas. I am a body. So that's one thing it seeks to be. I'm a body. This is my body. I am a body. And then it's constantly trying to maintain that idea. Whereas actually you are no body, no time, no place. Which is absolutely freedom. The next one is I am a name, and then it seeks to be that name. The next one, maybe, this is just an example, I must be good, or I must be bad. I must be clever, I must be better than. And all of these are seeking to be something, seeking to be form. And it's what in spirituality or non-duality we call the seeker. And it's sucking on all these things to maintain something. And through life, it becomes more and more complex. So when you're younger, it's not so strong, but it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger the more you go through life, because you're trying to be all these things: a good dad, good mom, good grandparent, financially independent, wealthy, successful. All of these different things you're trying to be and trying to hold up, if not for others, for yourself. You're trying to be somebody. I'm trying to be here. And every time that begins to get questioned or something doesn't go in line with what the seeker believes it is, then great fear and terror rises, because the seeker is terrified of the formless. The seeker is like this terror of nothing, of being nothing. So it's always trying to evade that. And when you have spiritual awakenings, often what precedes it is a terror or is a fear. Not all the time, but often, like for me, on the awakening journey, there was lots of sitting through fear. In the very last, big shift that happened in Bali, in that moment there wasn't fear, but prior to that, there was loads of times of fear arising and not moving from it. Like fear of dying and not running away, quickly trying to do something to cover that up. So what can be looked at is, who would you be if you weren't financially dependent? Sometimes that can be a great seeking thing. And a very strong belief that if I was financially independent, I would be free. Or financially independent, I wouldn't be free. And there could be so much mental activity around it. I am bad for this, I'm good for that, all these ideas. So that can be examined in order to get to the true seeking, which is the seeking to be free. Because that's actually also what the seeker wants. And this is why Papaji says that in the seeking to be free and the wanting freedom, there is freedom. Because actually what the seeker wants, as soon as it evolves, is to feel safe and at home. But it wants to feel safe and as at home as a seeker, as an independent entity, and that's impossible. Because no form lasts forever. So it's like it wants home. That's all it's craving for, but it wants home as a form, and that's impossible. So through the investigation of being dependent on others and the seeking that manifests there through that and the illusions, you can slowly step back to, I want to be free. and then aligning with your true desire, rather than when you're just more in the top one of wanting to be financially independent, then you're manifesting that, you know, that's the game. So it's like deeper. What is it deeper than that you truly want? And that is to be free. And freedom is the death of the seeker. It's the death of being a form. It's the recognition and the energetic shift back to the empty looking, which is no things and all things. A movement back to that which is watching this. And that watcher even begins to disappear, because watching in our language and can become a concept. It's like coming back to this unmanifest that's experiencing itself as all things, which is total love, unconditioned love. This life becomes about nobody. Nobody. There's nobody here. There's nobody there. And this is a free life. Thank you for your question. Oh yeah, there is a question. Yeah, you can unmute yourself. And the person with the hand up, I've asked you to unmute. One moment, I just have to put my headset in.
Hello.
Yeah, just a sec. Just let me put my headset in. Yes. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Hey.
It was just, sorry, I wrote this question down, but it was just, I don't know how to put it, because sometimes I do get the sense that my innate nature is freedom. But it's confusing because even though I do get that sense, I'm also very aware that I have many strong drives and desires, and I can feel the sense that the sense of doership when they arise.
Yeah.
Even in the sense like recently, I did my exams and everything. There was a really strong drive. I really wanted, and I really use that word wanted. I really wanted to do that course.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how well, I hope I did well, but there's such a strong wanting. And even, there's a strong wanting. I want to go back to Cambodia. I can feel the drive and the sense of doership. But I can also feel that um, this doership, it arises with the attachment to both pleasure and pain. The sense really that I'm a slave to my circumstances.
Mm.
And it is strange because I don't know if this well, sometimes when I feel free, I don't know if this is another trap. I can also feel extremely strong, like there's such a strength. I'm not dependent on my circumstances, but there's a pleasure in that. I can sense that. there's
Yeah.
there's a kind of pleasure that
Yeah.
I'm some kind of I've got spiritual muscles, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Yeah, it's the same pattern. And I just wanted to say that because I think, though, I don't believe there's anything wrong with the vitality of wanting to do something. It's just the blindness of it. Because I think you mentioned spiritual bypassing, and it's so easy to believe that it's just about being nothing. I can have the sense of being nothing, that there's absolutely nothing here. But but like when I'm not in that state now. So at the moment, it will be just a spiritual bypassing if I try to articulate the, the sense of there not being a doer. I don't know if you want to speak to that, because I do think there's some merit in having that vitality, that, but I don't know how to put it. Yet the drive,
Yeah.
the doer.
Yeah, I think I get a sense of it. Yes, I can speak on that. There was a strange echo, but it's gone now. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's a really beautiful point that you bring up. So the body will naturally have desire, but this isn't a seeking desire. This isn't a desire which arises to be a seeker, to be a form. It's a natural desire. So for food, for shelter, for occupation, for companionship. There'll be natural desire that comes. And this is desire that isn't based on seeking. So it isn't based on you trying to be a form out of it. So say if, they're traveling to Cambodia, it's not, when you're trying to be form, it's about what that will add to you, what that makes you appear like, what that will give you. But when it's a natural desire, it's like it's a fire, and you're right, it is like a positive feeling, a powerful feeling, because it's totally in line with the self. It's naturally coming out. It's natural energy. It's not getting confused by trying to make an identity out of something. And when there's awakening happening, this can become really confusing, because one moment it can be a natural movement to go to Cambodia, and then it can get mixed in with identity, with making an identity out of that. So recognizing this is really vital in a way, to then be able to differentiate in the moment, in every moment. So when the seeking appears, that what it's saying it wants is to go to Cambodia. And it's not saying this in a sentence, I want to go to Cambodia for freedom. It's saying, I want to go to Cambodia for this or for that reason, or because, it'll be more relaxing or more fun, or whatever idea it is. And that's not true. There is a desire, the natural desire to go to Cambodia, because that is what life wants. And then the recognition that when you're in the seeking story world, that what you truly want is freedom, not going to Cambodia. So with aligning that, you're then aligning, manifesting what you truly want, which is freedom. But often through the lack of acknowledgement of it, it gets confused with pleasure. And then there is a belief that the relief will come when you go to Cambodia, or when you do this, or when you do that, or when you pass the exam. And that's not true. So it's just recognizing it. What you truly want is what's already here, which is the formless. And for life to appear freely out of the formlessness. So desire to appear freely out of the formlessness, for movement to appear freely out of the formlessness. And when it does feel very empowered. It feels free. It does feel strong. When it goes through a you, and when it goes through a seeking, then it can feel strong or weak. It can feel better than or weaker than. It can feel pride or shame. So really, everything that you're doing is about freedom. But the mind just gets into confusion and believes it's about action. Your whole life has only been an apparent movement to freedom. It's all you've ever wanted. And then the seeker, the seeking energy, is terrified of that. It's terrified of no thing, of timelessness and spacelessness, because in that it doesn't exist. And there is the terror. Oh, you muted yourself. Did you have anything to say back to that? Sorry, you muted yourself, or maybe I muted you, didn't?
No, I did. I didn't want the echo to come. No, thank you. It does make sense what you say. It's just one more thing, because you also talked about meaning, and and what would give meaning to me. And I often think, because life is short. I'm getting on in years now. I know that death is inevitable and be quite soon in a way. And one of the things, I always imagine, if I'm on my deathbed, what would be most important for me? And it is the very strong sense that it's important for me to be able to serve in a right way, in a way that's unattached. But it is important to me to be able to serve. I feel like I haven't really lived my life until I've done that properly. I think I'd feel a bit agitated if I was on my deathbed and I felt like I hadn't done that. And I just wanted to say that because it just seemed to relate to meaning. You were talking about meaning earlier on.
That's really beautiful. Yeah, just mute you again because there's the echo. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, that's really beautiful that you bring that up. And my interpretation of what you mean is simply my interpretation, but it's something that you can use as a springboard to explore. Is to truly serve, is to act out God's will. That's what service means to me. It's just so beautiful. And it's actually what you've always been and done. Everything you've done, you've been in all the illusions, in all the pain, the suffering, the joy, the happiness. You've always been the perfect instrument of God. So all of us, we could say, in a poetic way, are servants to God, to the divine. And that is our life purpose, is to become so empty of the seeker, of the personal self, until there is no self. And when everything is the divine at play. It's the world of love. Love expressing itself. I'll mute you again if you've got any other comments.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. That was, it was really nice to hear that. That we are the perfect instruments of God. Yeah, I really needed to hear that, and it does bring the sense in me of the beauty of life. And I don't mean to say that glibly, because I know there's horrible things going on in the world, but despite that, the beauty of life. And so I don't want to talk about things which are irrelevant, but it's a healing, I think, if you're able to serve properly as a divine instrument. It's all that we can do, I think.
Yeah. It seems to be the life purpose of everything.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful questions. Thanks. What is the tattoo on your arm? Yeah, thanks for asking. So this tattoo here is Pranya Paramatars mantra. She is the female Buddha of wisdom, which I just thought was so beautiful. So in the Buddhism that I studied, there was a lot of focus on Pranya Paramatar in the Heart Sutra, and Avalokiteshvara, who was the Buddha of compassion. And Avalokiteshvara, which is this tattoo, which I hide with the beads, Avalokiteshvara, it's a he or a masculine, and it's the Buddha of compassion. And then you have the female, and these are a couple. Well, from my understanding, you know, all Buddhist groups and teachings are different. You know how it goes. They're not a couple as in a romantic couple, but they're partnered together. And then she is the Buddha, the female, the feminine is the Buddha of wisdom. So the masculine is the Buddha of compassion, and the feminine is the Buddha of wisdom. What beauty. And the Heart Sutra is so beautiful. Yeah, if any of you have the opportunity to read it, I particularly like the one by the Foundation of the Western Buddhist Order, which is Sangharakshita's interpretation. That's the Buddhist group I used to study with, but they've changed their name, and with my dyslexia, I always forget how to pronounce their new name, but you can look it up, Sangharakshita. Who knows how you spell that? But if you look up the FWBO Heart Sutra, so beautiful. We used to have to recite it, but my brain doesn't do these things, you know, remember it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so thank you for asking. So that is what that is. Yeah. Dear Lisa, your remark today about consciously dying is so beautiful, divine invitation. Yeah. Yeah. You consciously die. Yeah, to consciously die. And death is every moment. Who is it that's looking now? That the illusory person that believes it's alive and believes that it's doing actions isn't alive. You, the person you believe yourself to be, has never experienced. And this is why it's so terrified, because it's trying to claim existence, it's trying to claim being conscious, it's trying to claim being alive, it's trying to claim being a form, but it's never been any of these things. So it's like pedaling really hard to make itself a form when it's never been a form. That person has never been conscious. I mean, isn't that like mind-bogglingly beautiful and terrifying? You that thinks that you're alive and you're having experience has never been conscious. There is something which is conscious of that. There is something which is conscious of the person. And the reason that you can know this without a doubt is because you are seeing your thoughts. You are seeing the one that is choosing to do things. So who is the one watching that? There is something watching that. This person that's saying, I'm going to do this, I don't like that, I'm afraid of dying, it's being watched. So therefore it can't be the watcher. How can the one speaking and being seen be the seer? So who is it that's seeing that? This one that's yaggering on has never been alive. It's never been true. You're not good or bad or right or wrong or tall or short or ugly or beautiful or happy or unhappy or emotions. All of that is the illusion. And so much time is focused in the emotions, in me, and what I feel, what I want, what I need. Everything is about me, 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 me. But who is it that's watching that? And then when this really is taken seriously, there is this investigation into no man's land or no woman's land or no person's land. Because when it's really investigated, that which is watching the person is seen to be formless and form. So the consciousness is seen to be not a thing, the unmanifest and all things. Who you truly are is non-located and all locations right now. That is so scary to the seeker, because the seeker is always seeking to be form, to be something. I am a body, I am a name, I am my feelings, I am my position, I am my job, I am everything I know about myself, and it's trying to hold that up. And it's using all its relationships to try and reflect back who it wants to be. And then it gets so mad when someone reflects back an image that it doesn't like. No, I'm not that. I'm a good person. These excellent reminders you express are deeply appreciated. Yeah, thank you. This brings up anger and resistance here, just automatically, because I've been with a teacher that has been teaching me to stay in flow with my natural desires and the inner prosperity, to begin allowing that flow while realizing freedom. And this seemed to take them away. The desire was always not allowed as a child, and this feels like being concerned and everything being taken away again. It's like a concerned dog here, and it feels like some kind of agitated outline around my body. I'm fine with whatever is showing up, just curious. How can I be with this or inquire into this energy? Open to speaking, but no need if you can just answer. If I can just answer in a way that is liked, that is appreciated. We shall see. Otherwise we can speak, and then there is a negotiation of what resonates with you or what not doesn't resonate. But when it's just written, then you just get the answer and there's no negotiation. So that's really beautiful that you are curious. You're curious about the anger and the resistance. And there can be a psychological exploration into that, which I suspect you're becoming really good at because you've really dedicated yourself to this subject for years now. So, so you can investigate it in time as to why that is, your relationship with your parents, and that's beneficial because that's like the dense clouds of seeking, and it's kind of like thinning it out. It's understanding where it's coming from in the timeline. It's understanding the core feelings that are there, the victimhood or the rejection or the aloneness. But then you come to non-duality. And non-duality is pointing to the formlessness. And the formlessness doesn't have a particular path, even though teachers might express something to do or something to enact. Really, non-duality is pathless. Because who would have a path? It can only be the viewed character that has a path. And non-duality is calling to that which is viewing the character that has a path or doesn't have a path, that has anger towards the parents or doesn't have anger towards the parents. So yeah, the person can become angry because it can feel like, oh, it's being negated. It's not being listened to. It wants to be listened to. It seeks to be listened to. Whatever it feels, I trust that you've got a good psychological map to be able to handle that. And you've got a support system around you that can handle that on the human level. But what we're speaking about in non-duality is, who is it that's watching that? Who is it that knows that? It's always pointing back to the formlessness. And it's not that the formlessness doesn't care about the child that wasn't heard or wasn't seen. It just doesn't have care or not care. It's only experiencing. Your essence is only experiencing, and that is its freedom. Because it's formless, because it's without good and bad, right and wrong, light and dark, caring or not caring, meaning or no meaning. It is free. If it had caring and not caring, if it had light and dark, if it had good and bad, then it wouldn't be free. It would be encompassed into form. Who you are is the formless. And non-duality is the remembrance of this, and the energetic shift from being only the character to the watcher, the consciousness that is the unmanifest and the manifest, and then the character appearing in and out of that. And that dramatically changes the character, because what drops when this is recognized is the seeking. There might be old seeking patterns. In me, old seeking patterns can arise. But there is a deep sense of being at home, a deep knowing of home, an energetic shift back to an empty looking rather than somebody looking. And it can deeply change the patterns and the karma of the person. But this can still be imprint, and there can also still be stuff that needs to work out. Maybe that is for infinity. Karma needs to be worked out. Yeah. So I don't know if that addresses the question or not. You can speak if it doesn't. Okay. Somebody else has their hand up. In Zoom. Okay. Oh no, they've put their hand down. Okay. Yeah, if anyone wants to ask a question, then please put your hand up. Okay, well, we're just sitting here waiting, and I can do the advertisements. I've decided to put them in a different place in the video, because otherwise new listeners, it's taken me 30 minutes to realize that new listeners, they start listening and then all I do is advertisement. Who is this woman? What's she advertising? Yeah, so if you enjoy these videos, please make sure you subscribe and you like the video. This is great support to the channel. Thank you. I'd appreciate that. And advertisements, we have one more place in book club studying I Am That. You can go to my website and book that one place left. It's on Tuesday, and in the book club we study I Am That. We use it as a springboard to explore non-duality, and it's such a helpful springboard because it's such a beautiful book, and it's just a small group of 6 people, and you know, if we just did it without the book, then it might, because I don't necessarily have something to say, it might seem like I've got lots to say. It kind of keeps us on topic and on focus, you know, and then helps. Yeah, it's just really beautiful thing to do. I never thought it would work so well, and yeah, studying somebody else's book, it's not something you hear other non-duality teachers do, but it just really works beautifully. It really bonds the group, and it really helps us meet in silence and kind of enliven the exchange. Yeah, so you can do that. And then also there is a retreat in the end of October in Southern Europe, and that is definitely going ahead now. We had enough people book on to keep it, to make sure it's definitely happening now. So if you'd like to find out more about that, you can go to my website. And then I think there's also a private Zoom talk happening that won't be uploaded. I don't know. You have to ask the organizers if it's uploaded. It's the different organizers. I think it won't be, but maybe it's recorded. But it's recorded without people's videos. But it's not a live stream like this, so you can go on my website and find out about that too. Thank you. And for the last 15 minutes, maybe we shall do some reading from Bam Bam Bam, I Am That. I need to get some more books to read from in these streams, because I've changed the way I'm doing it. Not so many people can ask questions now, so there is a lot of break. If you want to ask a question, you have to sign up to Telegram and identify yourself, and I think a lot of people don't want to do that. Okay, so we shall do a random opening. The notion of doership is bondage. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. Questioner. We have been staying at Satya Sai Baba's ashram for some time. We have also spent 2 months at Sri Ramana ashram in Tiruvannamalai. Now we are on our way back to the United States. Maharaji, did India cause any change in you? Question. We feel we have shed our burden. Sri Satya Sai Baba told us to leave everything to him and just live from day to day as righteously as possible. Be good and leave the rest to me, he used to tell us. Maharaji, what were you doing at Sri Ramana Ashram? Question. We were going on with the mantra given to us by the Guru. We also did some meditation. There was not much of thinking or studying. We were just trying to keep quiet. We are on the bhakti path and rather poor in philosophy. We have not much to think about. Just trust our Guru and live our lives. Maharaji. Most bhaktis trust their Guru only as long as all is well with them. When trouble comes, they feel let down by and go in search of another Guru. Question. Yes, we were warned against this danger. We are trying to take the hard along with the soft. The feeling all is grace must be very strong. A sadhu was walking eastwards from where a strong wind started blowing. The sadhu would just turned around and walked west. We hope to live just like that, adjusting ourselves to the circumstances as sent us by our Guru. Maharaji, there is only life. There is nobody who lives a life. Can you hear the silence in that? That's so silent. It's so profound. There is only life. There is nobody who lives a life. Question. That we understand, yet constantly we make attempts to live our lives instead of just living. Making plans for the future seems to be the inevitable habit with us. Maharaji, whether you plan or don't, life goes on. But in life itself, a little eddy arises in the mind, which indulges in fantasies and images, and imagines itself dominating and controlling life. Life itself is desireless. But the false self wants to continue pleasantly. Therefore, it always engages in ensuring one's continuity. Life is unafraid and free. As long as you have the idea of influencing events, liberation is not for you. The very notion of doership, of being a cause, is bondage. Question. How can we overcome the duality of the doer and the done? Maharaji. Contemplate life as infinite, undivided, ever-present, ever-acted, until you realize yourself as one with it. It is not even very difficult, for you will be returning only to your own natural condition. Once you realize that all comes from within, that the world in which you have lived has not been projected onto you, but by you, your fear comes to an end. Without the realization, you identify yourself with externals, like the body, mind, society, nation, and humanity, even God or the Absolute. But these are all escapes from fear. It is only when you fully accept your responsibility for the little world in which you live and watch the process of its creation, preservation, and destruction that you may be free from your imaginary destruction. Why should I imagine myself as so wretched? Maharaji, you do it by habit only. Change your way of feeling and thinking. Take stock of them and examine them closely. You are in bondage by inadvertence. Attention liberates. You are taking so many things for granted. Begin to question. The most obvious things are the most doubtful. Ask yourself such questions. Was I really born? Am I really so-and-so? How do I know that I exist? Who are my parents? Have they created me? Or have I created them? Must I believe all I am told about myself? Who am I, anyhow? You have put so much energy into building a prison for yourself. Now spend as much on demolishing it. In fact, demolishing it is easy. For the false... Oh, hang on. In fact, demolishing is easy, for the false dissolves when it is discovered. All hangs on the idea I am. Examine it very thoroughly. It lies at the root of every trouble. It is a sort of skin that separates you from reality. The real is both within and without the skin. But the skin itself is not real. This I am idea was not born with you. You could have lived very well without it. It came later due to your self-identification with the body. It creates an illusion of separation where there is none. It made you a stranger in your own world and made the world alien and in something. Without the sense of I am, life goes on. There are moments when we are without the sense of I am, at peace and happy. With the return of the I am, trouble starts. What beauty! Yeah, where to start? So Nisargadatta, he changes the way he speaks, I think, throughout this book. And in this chapter, he is using the I am as identification. And sometimes he uses I am as prior to identification, beingness. But in this, he's using identification like you've identified with the I am, like you are something. And sometimes I am is that beingness, the sense of existence. It's so beautiful what he says. I mean, maybe I should have stopped a bit more rather than just reading all of that, because there's so many things that he says. There is only one life. There is nobody who lives a life. I mean, just that in itself. We take these words for granted. We hear the teacher speak it so often that we take it as a nothing. There is only one, there is only life. There is nobody who lives a life. This is so profound. Who is it that's living the life now? Who is it that moves the arm, that thinks the thoughts? Who? And this, even though I can work as an inquiry for you, the teacher can work as an inquiry for you, but also there has to be a going in. Who is it that's making life? Where does it come from? In this moment, where do all thoughts arise from? And who is watching the thoughts? When there's a belief in doership, there's always a person that's trying to control form. And it wants to control form so it can stay a seeker, so it can remain as a form. Whereas who you are is the formless. And this recognition is absolute freedom. This is love. Contemplate life as infinite, undivided, ever present, ever active, until you realize yourself as one with it. It is not even conditioned. Once you realize it all comes from within, that the world in which you live has not been projected onto you, your fear comes to an end. There is only life here. Somebody else in the questions is appreciating that quote. So, so I'm going to ask you to unmute. Somebody has their hand up and I'm going to ask them to unmute. But if you don't mean to have your hand up, if it's an accident, then you don't need to unmute yourself. Hello?
Hi.
Hey, did
So
you mean to raise your hand? Yeah, you have a question.
I did. So let's answer that question. Where is it that all this stuff arises from? I mean, I get it that I'm not doing any of this. I mean, I'm not even real, so can I? But it's like I'd like to see Nisargadatta show his work, his thought process. All we really ever get is these conclusions, these statements that seem to have been a product of a thought process, or else a philosophical neti process. And I just don't. I just something happened. um, and I just wanted to say, okay, it's a complete and utter mystery. We will never know. It's just a black hole, a dead end. And so we're just going to push that aside and move on to the awareness part of it. But whenever he says, there's nobody doing anything or there's nothing happening, it's like, no, it doesn't look like there's stuff happening around here. So confusion. What can I?
So when the teacher speaks, so Nisargadatta or anyone that's teaching non-duality, including myself, then what happens is there is a speaking from no place. But what's really interesting is the no place wants to express very similar concepts. So in my spiritual life and my spiritual adventures, like I've been on this path for that's probably over 25 years now, and then that's only taking into account this apparent life. If we look at other lives, it's like millions and millions of years. So there is a collecting of many spiritual ideas that have been really helpful and many emotional ideas that have been really helpful. But life doesn't really want to speak about that. Like the place of silence. So I have many ideas that could be helpful to people, but the silence doesn't really want to speak about that. It just wants to speak these very specific concepts. And I assume that's because in those concepts there is an energetic resonance that can happen because the concepts are closely aligned to the mystery. I know that sounds weird. In a way, everything's aligned to the mystery, but it's like if somebody starts speaking about how much they hate Donald Trump or something, it's like that's further away from speaking about the nature of existence in a way, even though it is existence. So, and I'm sure this is the same for Nisargadatta Maharaj. He's in his 80s, I think, when he speaks this. I'm sure he knows so much information that could be talked about. But it's that life wants these very specific concepts spoken. And it particularly enjoys speaking about emptiness or nothingness, because that's what it truly is. It's what's truly looking out of the eyes now is emptiness, is mystery. And it likes to talk about also that which creates a lot of illusion, so doership, the seeking. But it particularly likes the neti, no thing, no thing, no thing. That's what I notice.
Well, I wish life would throw us, I'm very much, there's a big part that interacts with the world through my mind. At least give my mind enough rope to hang itself.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that necessarily.
Yeah, you think that you're not getting that because maybe in the thought process, there is an idea of what needs to happen. So there's an idea of this future you that's getting something. So there's all these ideas in play, whereas actually it's the opposite that has to happen. It's that whatever's appearing now, so the idea that you're not getting it, the idea that there is discomfort or whatever's happening, there has to be a return and a going back to where all of that arises from. So who is the one that's thinking that? Who is the one that's feeling that? Where is it that comes from? And then in the return journey, so in going apparently backwards, then you begin to venture into the unmanifest. But the seeker is terrified of the unmanifest. So as it begins to touch it, it gets very fearful. And then it can create all types of dramas in order to avoid it. It can go back to it and then get fearful.
Yeah, this whole thing is the most backward, counterintuitive pursuit you could.
Yeah, so the seeking wants to go out and get things. And then this is the return journey. It's where is the seeking coming from? So you're going back into the feelings, you're going back into the origin of, I want to get enlightened, I want to be free, I want to feel joy, I want to feel expansiveness. And you're going back to where is that arising from? And then at some point it will reveal that there's nothing it's arising from, that who you are is the unmanifest, which is absolute love, because the unmanifest isn't divided from the manifest. So then it's oneness. There's no subject, no object, no you, no me. And that is an absolute love affair. when it all becomes back to one.
Yeah, I to it that what you're saying is
Well, you're beginning to cut out for some reason. I'm not sure if it's my internet or your internet, but you're becoming, you know, a bit that.
Oh, I hope it's the internet. I hope I don't sound like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like maybe the idea is like malfunctioning the robot. The robot's like forgetting its meaning and its words.
Yeah.
No, you've come back again now.
Okay. I'll think about it. Or no, I'll
Yeah.
feel it or intuitive,
Yeah.
whatever. Thanks,
Yeah.
Lacey.
Well, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Next person. Ask to unmute. So there was obviously not a happiness with my last reply. So there is coming back.
Hey,
And
Lisa,
returning for a second go. Hey,
I'm here. I'm here to argue.
you
I wasn't.
weren't satisfied.
I'm here to negotiate for my enlightenment.
Negotiate. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but definitely when you said, Harold keeps telling me to stop talking to you, so I'm definitely doing it wrong. I don't know why he's telling me that, but
Stop talking to her.
it's like
Just
Brian,
listen.
yeah, Brian, stop looping, man. Like, yeah,
Stop.
so yeah. Um,
Stop, stop, stop. So this is what Papaji would say or Gengaji would say is stop. Well, no, what is it that they say? They don't say stop. They just do
yeah, just stop.
nothing. Just stop. Is it just stop? The famous thing. He told me, so Gengaji always says that he told me just to stop.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you
I'm
want to not
trying.
stop
I'm
about?
trying.
What would you like to
Um,
not stop about?
so
I was going
so
to say
what
snot then, not snot about.
yeah, yeah, when I heard you say the karma, it might go on forever. That like it triggered the exact thing that I was talking about, and it was like this sense of like being trapped and doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
And but
that
this is
never
like
ending.
yeah, this is such a great place of investigation because only form can feel trapped,
Yeah,
and that's not who you are. So that has to be an illusion. So then it's the return journey. Where is it
yeah,
that the trapped feeling comes from? Because everything is appearing from the formless. So if you feel, for me saying that karma might go on endlessly, that can only feel trapping to an illusion.
yeah.
Because who you are is the formless, which doesn't have beginning or start.
Yeah, you often feel like I'm on the edge, and it's just like, um, something here is like so tired of suffering,
Yeah,
and it's unbelievable that
yeah.
it somehow manages to still do it.
The first noble truth is the recognition of suffering, and
Yeah,
that suffering is the problem.
boy, have I learned that.
Yeah. I mean,
And
everybody on this path and listening to these talks have most probably come
yeah,
to this realization. You know, this isn't the talk of like how to induce positive thinking,
nope,
how to make miracles. I mean, in a way, it is a talk in how to make miracles, but just not the miracles
yeah,
where it's like $1 million now.
yeah, yeah. I'm reading A Course in Miracles. That's definitely not $1 million is not. Well, it could be a miracle actually. Depends on what it's used for, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I don't have anything.
Just like all of us, we don't
Just
have anything.
yeah. Yeah,
So deeply relaxing.
yeah, it is. It's the only relaxing thing. And I felt with the yeah, with the desire thing, like like, oh, I'm not allowed to. And I can feel that's the person that doesn't feel like allowed to, or whatever.
Mm. And that can be
Yeah.
investigated on the human level. But the movement is always, who is it
Yeah.
that's thinking that? Who is it feeling that? Who is investigating that? So it's always a step beyond that. But
Yeah, there's
it's good to investigate it, to see, like Nisargadatta Maharaj would recommend that, to investigate what's happening in the experience, not be fooled by anything. If you don't investigate that there's anger coming up, then the anger comes up and it just presents itself as a reality.
yeah. Yeah, you know, one of the things that keeps popping up for me, also during talks and everything with you, is that, you know, for years you told me, you know, you suggested lightly, like, Brian, it could be good for you to do these things, you know, to figure out some therapy, to figure out like this or that. And I realized not doing that, I suffered probably immensely. And like what often comes up is just like guilt, like of like having done it wrong, like gotten the whole path wrong. And the
Okay,
flip
so
side
to
of
really
it is,
not. Yeah, but yeah, the flip side is, yeah.
yeah, it's like that was all perfect because it was to exhaust the seeker, and like it had to happen that way.
Yeah.
Nothing can, you know, um yeah, it keeps oscillating, but whatever. I don't want to fight anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So anyway, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for giving me nothing.
Yeah. Thanks for nothing. Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
see ya.
Okay. That is all. Yeah, thank you, everybody. I so appreciate sharing this with you. I really, really do. Yes. Yeah, so if you've appreciated this video, please like and subscribe. That is really helpful. But yeah, I really, 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 really wish you everything. Every goddamn thing. Thank you.